Bien, Madame la Chancelière, Monsieur le Président, Mesdames, Messieurs, merci beaucoup d'être là. Nous venons de tenir donc une
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We're going to conduct
de ce G7 élargi à l'ensemble de nos
session of this
G7
G7 session that was extended to all our African partners. And I would like to thank the President of Burkina Faso, who is with us, who is also the President of the G5 Sahel. And the objective of this meeting is that G7 is not just a group of countries that just work within each other, but our aim was to build an international strategic partnership with Africa. There are several opportunities for this, and we were talking about different issues, including security, with Libya and Sahel being on the agenda. Now, in the Sahel region, the main challenge is to combat terrorism. For several years now, we have been working at it. The Balkan forces, including French, European, and UN and African forces are involved. MINUSMA is involved, and Europe is also involved through the training of troops. And within the G5 Sahel partnership, we have aimed at coordinating efforts between the armed forces in Africa and ourselves. And we have launched a mechanism in 2017 with Mrs. Merkel. And with Madam Merkel and the G5 Sahel, as far as terrorism is concerned, we have tried to consolidate this support with a new partnership for security and stability in the Sahel. Now, all the efforts that I've mentioned are indeed very useful, and our aim is to ramp up our efforts now. And I'm going to give the floor to the Chancellor to give more details about this partnership, the partnership that we have discussed this afternoon and has been presented to all our partners.
Well, allow me, if I may, to first thank Emmanuel Macron for placing the issue of Africa at the very top of the agenda. And I believe that the presence of our African colleagues and friends has underlined yet again how important and how urgent the issue is. There are very positive tendencies in Africa. I think that has become very much apparent. Looking at the current developments, let me just mention the conclusion of a free trade agreement of the whole of the African Union. But there are also trends that are somewhat worrying. We talked about Libya, about the development there, and I think, again, we also have to look at the Sahel and the development there. The G5 group of countries has difficulties. We have made every effort in order to bring matters forward, but at the same time we have a deteriorating security situation, and we know that development without security is simply not possible, which is why we have to strengthen security through Barkhane. France is doing an exemplary job. Germany has become more engaged over the past few years. We are part and parcel of MINUSMA. We are part of the EU training mission for Mali, and we also support the G5 Sahel force. So it's two pillars, really, an international MINUSMA training mission and also support mission, and the second pillar, the support of the G5 Sahel forces. But that simply is not sufficient, because the operational territory of this force is limited. We have to support it and reinforce it, but we also need 5 countries of the G5 group of Sahel countries who are empowered to shoulder their own security interests, that is to say, give the necessary equipment to the security forces, to both the armed forces there and the police. And I'm very grateful that Germany has now been able to launch this stability and security initiative with the support of others. It is an open initiative, open to others also, so we will try and enlist the support of other countries outside of G7 and try to convince them to participate. And this means to be open and to also align this with the security needs of the G5 countries. President Kabore is right now in the chair of this group, and during his chairmanship, he will be our interlocutor in order to tell us what exactly we need and where in the world can we find somebody to support us in the area of logistics, training, material, but we obviously have to be, all of this has to be in keeping with the real needs of these countries. But one thing has become clear yet again. We are in a race with terrorists. It is a very urgent matter. We cannot say that the security situation has improved. We have to very quickly step up our efforts, and we in Germany feel very much committed to this. We will put our all into this, and we see this as a very important initiative. So thank you for enabling us to launch this here today.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. Mr. President, you have the floor. Well, first of all, I would like to say the following, that on behalf of my colleagues, I would like to thank Emmanuel for having invited us to this G7 summit on questions that involve both security and development-related issues, because, as he mentioned, the idea is to build a partnership. And I would say that it's a partnership between Africa and the G7 countries, so as together we can solve all these problems. I would just like to mention that as far as the Libyan issue is concerned, we clearly demonstrated the consequences of the war in Libya on the security of G5 Sahel. It is like a gangrene that is developing, and we believe that it is important that all partners find a solution to the Libyan problem, or at least attempt to find a solution that will help us to curb terrorism, not just in Sahel, but also in the other coastal countries surrounding Sahel. The second point is that we need an international partnership in order to support security and also to support development. And in this respect, this idea was born, and the work is being conducted currently to help us not just to benefit from significant assistance by way of military assistance, but also in terms of development, because security and development are intricately intertwined. And in this respect, we have also pursued discussions, because the American president was also present, to continue to put the G5 Sahel force under Chapter 7. And this is a discussion that Emmanuel is going to pursue. We've been talking about this for many years now already. And I think that if we managed to make sure that the G5 forces, the 7 battalions that are all in place, get the resources to be able to finance their army, I think that that will be a significant step forward in combating terrorism. So this is something that we totally subscribe to. We're totally in favor of this international partnership, and we will work together in a more concrete manner to be able to implement this partnership between the G7 countries and the G5 Sahel countries. Thank you very much. Thank you, President. Are there any questions on this partnership? Is everything crystal clear? Of course there is money. The question is there money? Yes, there is money. And as Madam Merkel meant, the rationale is a rationale of concentric circles. So there's the Balkan forces, that's the military side, and then what we put into the G5 Sahel, that is the 5 countries. And we have held a lot of conferences to raise funds, and now the challenge is to actually make sure that everyone who has pledged funds actually provide those funds. So we have to also not only provide funds for security, but also for development, because as soon as we regained territory from the jihadists, we have to immediately supplement that with development projects. So there is additional funding. We're going to do a tour de table. Our objective is to finalize the financial aspects with non-G7 countries as well. The initiative taken today is that it is extending the scope of security and also to include ECOWAS in the security-related issues outside of the G5 Sahel, Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, Senegal, etc., and also to raise international finances once again and cooperate when it comes to the army, but also the customs and other aspects. Burkina Faso, for instance, since President Kabore has to face permanent aggression in his country. And now this aggression is in all of the border regions. And thanks to this pact, we're going to create a framework, and along with the army and the customs of the neighboring countries, we're going to re-engage in the in this cooperation. And then we will also ask for donors to join us to finance these actions. So it is the Alliance for the Sahel which will take care of this part.
Maybe I ought to reiterate the sort of procedure that we've envisaged today. The political initiative has been launched. We shall now use the next few weeks to come in order to see who else will want to be in on this, and also ask the G5 Sahel countries what they feel is the most urgently needed requirement. And then we shall have a conference held in Germany where we say this is our work program, these are going to be the steps forward, and the UN General Assembly will also give us an opportunity to take some stock, to probe on who will want to contribute to this and who will want to support this. And then we launch this work.
I would just like to add something to that, that as far as neighboring countries go, we have the initiative already with the coastal countries to work with the G5 Sahel to combat terrorism. And on the 14th of September, we have a formal ECOWAS meeting on the security-related issues and combating terrorism as well. So this is just to prove that even at the local and regional level, there's some solid work taking place, and we need to find synergies between all these different actions to be more efficient. Thank you. This is a press conference. I'm not going to answer on any other topics. We were really talking about the Stability and Security Initiative in the Sahel and not on any other issues. The question from the journalist is off mic. Answer. As the Chancellor said, the question is, would this mean that there will be more French and German troops in the Sahel region? Well, this is a framework for cooperation, for military cooperation, which goes beyond the G5. And secondly, today we have made commitments, different commitments within the Barkhane operation and to ETM and the MINUSMA. As far as the needs are concerned, we will have to see if we need to strengthen these military actions. Bilaterally, we have also engaged with a lot of other countries. France, for instance, with Senegal, with Côte d'Ivoire, has bilateral initiatives to combat terrorism, and we have troops present in the framework of this cooperation. But as President Kabore was saying, we are looking for frameworks that will create synergies between different initiatives to extend the scope of our action and define the form that needs to be designed for further military action.
The idea is not really that we send more troops, but rather that the police forces and also the armed forces of the G5 Sahel countries are strengthened, are supported, and if they need advice, then obviously we will be there, but not specific troops.